I guess.
Right. Okay. Well, you'll see now by top left-hand corner, you'll see the little recording symbol. So we are now recording today's session. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm just going to go share screen. Share. And then slideshow. Is everyone looking what I'm looking at? It's just the first page. It says Raglan wastewater treatment plant discharge. Thumbs up? Yeah, cool. So cool, just thanks, Axel. Just we just want to, we're 10 minutes in the welcome. I'm just going to go through the work stream updates and then have the wrap up. So just, I'll go to the next page. These are our work streams, and tonight I'm just presenting updates on the streams A, B, C, and E, which is we're just showing what's happened since we last met and discussed things. So the first one we're talking about is work stream A and B, which is the extension of the existing outfall. This is I know it's not favourable to a lot of people, but it's important that we actually do this for a robust consent application. So as we know, at the moment we've got a stub, and it's been a stub since consenting, and the reason for that is that the outlet broke off because it was weighted. It was weighted down. It wasn't fixed down, and it just the tide just it's just powerful. Took it off. So what would even work there? There hasn't been any studies to understand where the rock bed is. I don't believe so. This is something we're undertaking now, which is the non-invasive use of a firm named Scantech from Whangarei that have can use it gets beyond me, but some seismic sort of apparatuses. So I'll try and I've got a couple of slides just to show what happened, and I've got a little video as well. So what happened last week. Also part of this is the where we're going with the emerging organic contaminants. So we took some samples were taken in March, and they can be held for that duration. COVID upset things, and I'm working with the Horton plant to get them tested. The advice is that the testing that they get a whole range of samples from various treated wastewater locations, and they do them all at once, and it's quite a big, expensive procedure to calibrate machines and run them through. So that's hoping to happen mid this month. So hopefully I will have something to present next month about what, again, it's emerging contaminants. It's quite new, but it's what the community and what the project team want to understand as well. What's in the wastewater stream. So the next slide, I'll just sort of, okay, this photo here is this photo that I'm sort of circling now was the one-dimensional, was the machine he used on the day. And so it creates a one-dimensional image, and it was just using vibrations. So the location that we tested was at the existing location, and two sites. But while we had Scantech down, it became apparent that we should really do more just to understand what is happening on the coast. So we did some additional sites as well, and that was like further around by the camping ground, just so we can get a picture of where the rock is. So this is the one-dimensional. This one here is the horizontal. It's called the horizontal vertical spectral ratio, one dimension, and I just the meters are down this axis here. So thumping the ground, taking away the background noise, you can get a picture of where the different strata are. If you know what things are, you can label them. But for instance, this could be topsoil, one strata of soil, another strata, and bedrock down here. Some testing that's going to happen this week, I believe, is seismic reflections, which is using another non-invasive apparatus to give a two-dimensional image. And he's just given me an example here. Ground level can be shown there, the top layer, then we go to bedrock and others of that. So it's just knowledge building. And I have got a little image here. I took it on my iPhone and I couldn't quite get it to transfer onto this PowerPoint, but I've tested it and this kind of works. I'll just show what the image I'm just going to show is what the Stantec man is actually doing on site. And it's quite crude, but it's effective in getting the vibrations down. So it is. That's our man there. He's got a hammer and he's just walking around thumping, and he's doing that at multiple sites. And from there, he can get a picture of where the rock layer is. Cool. So that's that stream. That's what's progressed there. I'll have something for the next stream. So I'll have something for the next meeting to present results.
Just before you go on, Stephen, we had one question from Phil McCabe there on the chat there. If you just want to address that while we're at this section.
Okay. I can't see that. Can you just read it out?
Yep. Please explain how often outflow samples are taken and from where exactly in relation to the pipe.
The outflow samples are taken as part of the consent requirements. I think we do. I'm not sure the frequency. I think it's monthly. They're taken not at the outlet. They're taken at the plant from the day pond.
Okay, well, we'll come back at questions at the end anyway, if you want to follow up a bit further, Phil.
Yeah.
Okay, Stephen, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So this is the stream of the work stream of the membrane biological reactor scenario. Last month, just provided an outline of how it could work within the existing footprint. And to see, just as a quick recap, this would be the size of an MBR. This is an earlier picture below about what an MBR actually is. It's got a mixing zone, which in this picture would be below the actual building, and then it has cells. So it's not a big piece of it doesn't take a lot of room, but it is a little chemical plant happening there, and you have a wet weather buffer pond that you need, but then again these old oxidation ponds aren't needed for that practice. So that was the last month. I said we were getting some reporting done. We've got the reporting. They've got the reports. They're with me now. They're just in the final review stage, and I'll release them. It's from Becca just to outline how this scenario would work, and also an ecological study about the discharge for this scenario. At the moment, we're talking about a stream recharge, an adjacent stream to the pond here, which would then flow down to the Wainui, would flow down to the harbour, and then there's retention. Then there's days of retention within the harbour. So again, that isn't favourable for a lot of people. I know friend would go that this isn't what he's about. But again, we just have to investigate this option. So so what else has been happening? Well, we're thinking about. Well, we listened to Angeline's comments last month and just see what happened with the small party that went up to the Innovation Centre in Mangere, and we had incorporated the biosolids reuse aspect within our studies, but another part of it as well was just to touch base with that group, and then because I know that there was interest in another subsection of their works, the Virotech group, and that is use of vetiver for post MBR treatment, or no, post post-treatment. Vetiver is just as a exotic plant. It's a sterile plant, but it has a big root area, and it is used in New Zealand up north. There's nurseries, and principally I think there's multiple uses. One is for erosion control.
Get away from this.
Yes.
Oh no! But the Vorotech group also use it. Say it's a tool for transpiration, etc. And it was worth touching base with them and having a small engagement to see how they could contribute to this study. In terms of, from my perspective, is just to see if you've got an MBR discharge, it still needs to meet cultural needs. Is there room to get an earth cell or something that could work using plants with a mix of natives? So that's something that's happening. Last month I talked about the potential for an MBR visit. We're working with we've got a similar process happening now with Te Kōwhira. They're at a point where there's an upgrade needed there, and we're working closely with that group of key stakeholders in Hapu. They're already on board with an MBR in principle, and it sort of aligns with some greater work that we've done in the mid Waikato, which is in the river catchment. It does. This is the expectation of MBR. So again, the tricky part, the discharge, it's got the same sort of. Te Kōwhira has same challenges as Raglan with tight soils. But in any case, it was worth us just going for a visit to Rotorua. So we will do that. We're going to turn that up for later in this month. But in the first instance, it was just an engineering visit. So we're just going to show you some slides and a quick video about what we saw and a summary of the MBR plant near the Rotorua Lakes. There's some similarities and there's a lot of differences. The plant bed that I'm going to show you was funded by a grant to clean up the lakes. The moment the population or the households would have been about 500 septic tanks, which weren't contributing to lake health. So there was 500 houses within predominantly Māori land that needed to have reticulation and treatment. So the flow was different. The challenges there were getting the flow to the actual plant from the houses. There was some cultural challenges because having the raw sewage over Māori land didn't cut the mustard. So I've gone too far. So that had to get worked through. The discharge was quite different and it wasn't so much of a challenge because of the porous sort of volcanic soils they have there. I'll show you in the next couple of slides. What they did there was it was just a shallow injection which would filter down through the strata. So again, this could be something that we can initiate with key stakeholders and Raglan if there's interest. I think there will be. So that's something I need to work on. So when I look at this picture here, I've got A, B, and C in my bioreactor description. When I go to this page, this is the A component. This is the waste, the introduction and the bioreactor where there's saccharides are put in there and the wastewater's munched out on. It's bubbling away there. B is the cells. This is where the wastewater goes through and gets treated by. It doesn't get treated; it gets filtered. And C is the sludge removal, which is this is where you get the I think it's about 14% solids out the end for another byproduct. So it's a little plant that bubbles away, and this is what it really looks like.
Stephen,
Mm-hmm.
can you just pause that?
Yep.
can I ask that you stop sharing your screen, and then if everyone goes onto speaker view, we'll have the whole screen to see that. It's very hard as the small tile. So if you just stop sharing for the moment, the presentation, and then hold the camera up like you're doing. No, stop sharing. Stop sharing the.
Okay. Oh, I'm having technical difficulties. Stop sharing. There it is. Yep.
Yep. And then if everyone just on their personal computer, if you click onto speaker view instead of gallery view, you'll have a large screen just for Stephen. Where you go?
Okay. Thanks. Can everyone sort of, am I positioned right? I can't quite.
A bit to your right.
On my other right?
Perfect.
Yeah. Are we finished? I was hoping for a bit of sound. It is a little plan. It's not like but it's not an industrial sort of groan. But there's a bit of noise, and it's, I mean, it is what it is. So it was good experience. I'm going to share my screen again. Full view. Cool. So with the rotor ET plant, it's about here, and so as I said before, the challenge was to get the surrounding residential and rural properties, their wastewater to the plant. So for their solution, it was getting the Hapu solution for them was a pre-treated wastewater was culturally acceptable. So they're using a step system, which is a septic tank effluent pumping system. It's partially treated and a bit of aeration. So it arrives to the plant partially treated. The discharge was of lesser concern. The discharge field I'm showing over here next to that little horse. It was 3 2-meter bores that went down, and the flow and the soil conditions allowed it to just filter the highly treated wastewater to go through whenua, and in time it'll reach down here. But you can see it's quite different to the Raglan scenario where we've got such tight soils that isn't a feasible discharge option to land.
Just before you move on from that, I think Ed, did you want to have a comment or a question?
Oh, no, sorry, Axel. No, I've just had some trouble getting into it. You probably just saw me popping up because I've just managed to get through. Sorry.
Okay, no. Okay, Stephen, back to you.
Yep. So the next stream of work I'll cover is the non-deficit irrigation to land. So as a recap from last meeting, I just highlighted this image here and the yellow blobs, which were landowners that I had contacted just to see, I don't know, just explain the project and just gauge if there was any interest on a just a win-win. I went looking for a win-win where they might be in a mood or they might be about to sell or something. It was worth just the discussion in any case. This line here was what was evident with the soil sampling that happened afterwards, that the tighter soils were towards the plant. They were the granular or thick soils, and the better soils were near the base of Mount Kariori out here. So since then, there's been some. Our soil experts PDP have been are producing maps that just show where should you target to land irrigation, and so they've done this through a weighted attributable assessment. Weighted assessment, which is, I'll go through it on the next slide, but it's just saying, just avoids going, oh, that bit of land over there seems nice and flat, but there's more to it than that. It's like, what is the size of it? How can it be used? What's the feasible, how much can it take in terms of irrigation to land, and where does it go when it's winter, when there's water everywhere? Is there storage capacity at the plant? So it was good to just and there's other factors as well. I'll just cover it, but it was good just to get a plan of it. So I'll just quickly just highlight there's a couple of key things here. The white blobs of what I put in myself, which is the Waikato 2070 growth areas. So over the next 50 years, they're earmarked for different zoning. The darker green would be the areas which were ranked highly for non-deficit irrigation and suitability. And then you head down to the redder areas, which it's ranked lowly, like 0. This is like, for instance, this is a lot of Māori land over here, and then over here it's starting to get really fragmented down, and there's, I don't know, you sort of, it isn't, it'd be difficult, it wouldn't, pursuing some land over there wouldn't meet the project outcomes. So the assessment criteria looked at many things. It was usable land, slope, drainage, distance to wastewater treatment plant, etc., etc. Those sort of headings don't mean much without a description. So I'll try my best. I'll just spend a couple of seconds going over it. But I think a really good action I can do is to talk to Daryl, who's our PDP expert, and just get a clearer, like a quick Zoom recorded meeting and recorded session, and put it up on the website so you can quickly go through it. It could have been better for him to turn up tonight, or just had some shorter lead in, and it's quite technical. It'd be good just for him to explain it and share it. But it was, in terms of the usable land, it's sort of, there's parts of the land you can't use if there's streams and there's setbacks needed within it. You wouldn't, if it was, I mean, those are the areas that just aren't good fit for irrigation. So it says waiting put there if it has a lot of that sort of unusable land. The slope, if it's has no degree of slope, that's the flat stuff. That's what is the ideal for irrigation. Once you get to 25 to 30 degrees in height, it's limited ability to take limited for any irrigation. Drainage, this is where we're talking about the very poorly draining soil to well-drained soil. Distance, the ranking was closer to it's quite obvious, closer to the plant, easier. So 0 to 2 kilometers would get a higher ranking. When you get out to 8 kilometers, you get to the lower end of the ranking. District zone, again, it was just considering coastal, rural, and recreation. The rural had the best ranking. Coastal, which has rural rules and is a large farm area, slightly lower, and recreation, there isn't too much beyond one area reserve, which got the lowest ranking. So in existing land use, it also looked at the makeup of all the areas within Raglan. The going from say rock, which had the lowest ranking, to mid ranking, which would be indigenous hardwoods. Better is manuka and short rotation cropland, and the best would be pasture. Again, land ownership. It's more. There's only 3 categories. It was like public, private, or Māori. So Māori, unlikely. Both public and private negotiations. This is, believe it or not, there's a bit of work behind there, and it still needs some updating, like with the 2070, to what we really need to get out of it as a refined top 20 desirable sites. Again, so the one aspect that wasn't shown clearly in that map was that if there's multiple titles within a working farm. When you join those together, it does give a greater area that could be more suitable for irrigation or the project needs. So a revised map that we have sort of shows these greater areas here. And I know just for to get your bearings, I know this property is about 200 hectare. So that they are large, but that's what's needed for this option. When I go to the next page, I've taken, I'll use the one to the left at the base of Kuriori as an example. I've taken the area of the minimum area of irrigatable land you'd need, which would be 70 hectares. It's going to need any potential property for investigation's sakes would need an on-site investigation, but 70 hectares would be this green area. It would never ever be like this. It would have to be spread over the suitable areas. Like for instance, the 30 hectare, I mean the 30-degree slopes wouldn't have it, but there could be patches and patches that are workable. And the winter storage, which is 150 meters cubed, as a broad brush figure, would be if you had ponding that was 4 meters in depth, the width would be approximately 130 meters, and the length would be double that, so 260. Again, it would have been with all these scenarios. I've covered it a few times. We're talking about gullies and other sort of areas that can be used to dam over the winter months. Take the treated wastewater there, and then it over the summer months they drain down, and that's part of the 70 hectares of use. So this is all. So this is what I've been doing. I need to. I've got another. I'm going the wrong way. Another sort of example I've just been using of Google Earth. I think it's quite a useful tool just to illustrate what we're talking about. Another one here, sort of, and it's useful for me because when I look at the key, like I just know these will be frequently asked questions. It's like this is theoretical talk. What's the next steps? Well, the next steps is an approach to landowners. Just if we can provide them information and just get an understanding of if there's any where they're at with their running their business. Are they at a point where they're thinking of selling it? It'll be or a long-term lease. It'll be an explanation that we're going through a multi-criteria analysis. We've got a shortlist which includes irrigation. We also have a shortlist that includes an MBR and a shortlist that includes the existing ponds with an outlet. Again, it's just sort of introducing the project and building a rapport, and we'll see what get nibbles, I guess. Another query is the winter storage effect. What happens to the treated wastewater over the winter? And I've talked to both Becca and water care specialists. Again, it's winter months. It's colder. It's a treated wastewater that would have gone through the ponds, a tertiary membrane, UV. It may go a little bit green, but they won't create any adverse effects. And there's a possibility of aeration, just pumping some air through it as well. So I think the advice is that it would be, there wouldn't be. It is okay, and a practice that's known through New Zealand to winter store treated wastewater over winter. The dual purpose potential. There was an email that Rick sent through to everyone, which was great. It was saying that wouldn't it be the Raglan way to think about dual purpose in terms of solar? Another initiative I know that's happening with a group in Raglan, and I guess it does add the solar plants, the solar fields I've seen do, I think, rely on flat land a lot, and also orientation to the sun. Again, it adds another little bit of complexity to put that in the mix and getting any land. So it would be the first sort of any land that we were able to enter negotiations for purchase of long-term lease would have to have wastewater sites as a principal need, and then I don't know, thereafter there may or may not be any potential for any other use for solar. So again, that's getting to the end of what I really had to say tonight. The only other part I'll say is that I'm going to just talking to a few others in the community that there was a request for some more face-to-face time. So to meet that sort of request, a good solution would be just to have a Zoom recap, which can be held in Raglan at the supper room. So me and Teresa work through getting an invite out. I know that Malibu and John have the invite and can share that. Again, there will be no new information sort of presented. It would just be a repeat of this. The Zoom session is a good vessel to record and go through what the progress that we've made during the month. Also, there's some web page updates, like in the historical folder. Just FYI, I found this old bulletin in the archives from 1999, which is, I don't know, I thought it was quite useful. It just sort of showed what has happened with this, trying to find a solution in the past. There's been a lot of work over the years, and we're not repeating. I think that we're doing something that's quite new and really going beyond any investigations that we've done before. But have a look. Also, I put up a Waitangi Tribunal summary. It's important for application preparation in terms of meeting the purpose and principles of the RMA, particularly matters of national importance and Treaty of Waitangi. So it's a very good summary of the challenges that have occurred with this project since the ponds were made. So that's me.
All right. Well, if you'd like to stop sharing your screen again, if you can work out what you did before to do that.
Yeah. See, just like that.
Just like that, eh? Like an off-road. And we had a couple of questions that came up on the chat, so we'll start with those, and then anybody else wishing to make a comment or have a question, then please just use the chat function to indicate that. I've also, I think, got one participant just labelled iPhone. If they could just send comms a little message on who they are, please. Just trying to keep an attendance record. Now, I'll start with, I think, Phil, you're the first to put a comment up. Did we in fact cover that with that first answer, or did you have another question or comment following that? And I'll come to you, Chris, second.
I think it was covered. Thank you at this stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other testing I think that would have been useful was there is dye testing that was covered in another session, and I can talk to you afterwards about that and show you the results. They do a dye test, which sort of shows what's happening there.
Cool.
And then I'll let Chris speak to it. But if you didn't see the text, basically one talking about what discharge streams can be, what the discharges can be used for, number one. But secondly, also making sure that we decouple the method of treatment from the use of the discharge, because they are independent. That was the main thrust of it. But Chris, you'll speak to it more eloquently than I have, I'm sure.
Thanks, Axel. Yeah, that's just in our workflow system. I've kind of identified that we've seemed to have married together different treatments with different discharge options, and it's actually two very different questions. So stream recharge is a kind of discharge, but MBR is a kind of treatment, and there's no reason why we couldn't do land treatment with land discharge with MBR treated water, and that would actually give us better environmental outcomes. It may or may not also mean that we don't necessarily need to buy the land. People might actually want that MBR treated water. It might be a cheaper alternative than their current irrigation options. So I kind of would like to see going forwards that we begin to decouple, like Axel said, the treatment question, which is definitely the number one question, followed by the number two question, which is the discharge question. And obviously, they are married in an interplay. Some of the discharges won't work with certain treatments, but essentially we've got to work out how we're going to treat the water,
Yeah.
and then where it's going to go. And obviously, to what level we treat it will dictate a little bit as to where it goes. And maybe Stephen, you can answer a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay.
To how
No, that's-
potable the water or non-potable, how useful the MBR water is. Like, could we give it to farmers or golf courses or places that need irrigation and whatnot?
Yeah. So there's sort of two bits in there saying why can't we? I mean, is there opportunity to have an MBR treatment to the high, like a really high treated wastewater, and then also and then consider the high irrigation to land options. Again, it's sort of when you see those when you see I guess I've put the preliminary costs for these things, it gets to a point where it gets fanciful to do both. It's it wouldn't even the reticulation and pumping to get to sites for land irrigation. That's quite a big cost, and also I guess the cost of the land is again it would just be quite a big cost to do it. So you're saying, well, what about farmers that might want to use it for irrigation? Perhaps again, but there has to be some real certainty with this consent. It can't be. We in the interim we'd love to get a reuse and we do. That's a project objective. But where is it going to go in the interim? It's not going to be all go to land. There's going to be an outfall somewhere. So again, we have to know where the water's going in the winter when there's water everywhere and it's hard to get rid of it. I mean, hard to discharge it. In terms of uses for treated the highly treated wastewater. Yep, there's definite uses for third parties or cut and carry, all that sort of thing in the summertime when there's water scarcity. There's many uses in it, and that's where the like in some places it was called purple water. It's sort of like don't drink it, but use it to wash your boats or do something with it. It's the good stuff. It's probably there'd be another couple of processes, but it's one step away from being reverse osmosis or whatever to getting it to potable. So it's in 20 years' time that might be where everything's going. Nothing's to that point yet. There is a paper that's near completion about the nearing completion. I just have some final tweaks on it about what it can be used for business cases if someone wants that would accompany the MBR water and also the pond tertiary water. It would just growing crops, hemp, etc. So give us a quick second, we'll get that distributed.
So if we had an MBR, essentially the water we would be putting back in the environment, wherever it gets put, whether it's land or water, would be a hell of a lot better quality than if we don't have an MBR and we're pumping half-treated wastewater up onto land.
Yeah, it misses the critical showstopper is just getting the cultural acceptance of it. Like those RMA, I think everyone we're talking to knows that those purposes and principles of the Act, it's a showstopper if you can't get the cultural acceptance of it.
Would we have 3 empty ponds able to use as a kind of whether eels or whether grasses or wetlands with the MBR? Would that give us 3 empty ponds?
Yes, it would give ponds and again there could be potential for earth cells, etc. This is where we have to work closely with both of the hapu that in Raglan, the Tainui o Tainui and Ngāti Mahanga, and we can't, all we can do is present and just say that we don't know, and every hapu is unique and has unique views on things. So that's something that's my job, just to work on that, and that's what we're heading toward with the environment group. I hope just to present some options with vetiver, or something that can allow for whenua and root contact to accompany the MBR option. Again, if it's the to land option, I think I mean, there's nothing to really talk about. It is going to land. It's not half cooked. It is still a good wastewater, but it's gone through biomats, aeration, tertiary membrane, and UV.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. Hugh, you had a comment there about subsurface irrigation.
Be nice, Hugh.
So I could just leave him on mute. I can click mute every time he clicks on mute.
No, just a question. Obviously in the region we have other communities that they use the golf courses for subsurface irrigation of treated wastewater, like in Pawanui and Whitianga. Kinloch is just getting a system put in as we speak. Have you again looked at the option of perhaps diverting some of the treated wastewater to the golf course?
Yes. We've talked to the golf course and did some testing there. That was in the last session. It just showed that when we went out there in July, it was like we could hardly even get we could hardly get a sample out of the ground. It's very, very tight clay there. So again, it would be a business case that would needed with the golf course, and I do have to get back to them about the results. We're still getting the results, but in terms of a discharge solution, it isn't. It would take 0.5% during the summer. It's different to those other scenarios. The soil wouldn't take it. But in terms of a reuse option, it definitely would be. Then in terms of, but because it is just a reuse option, the cost of getting it to that would be better spent. It'd have to be. I mean, the gains wouldn't be there. You'd say, oh, cool, we've got rid of. A little bit of waste, a little bit of treated wastewater over the summer. Where does it go in the winter? No good.
And Fred did very well not to speak until now, but has been busy.
Keep him muted, I think, now.
So, Fred, your comment?
Yeah, look, I'm still very concerned and want reassurance from the fact that, all of these areas, or most of those areas that we're looking at, still will end up in an upper estuary of the Whaingaroa Harbour.
Yep.
And the water exchange in those upper areas are like 40 days. And Hugh, I think, was probably aware of that fact. And like Lake Taupo, fertilizer, nutrient that was applied to the land just in farming practices is now emerging around the edge of the lake through groundwater, which is incredibly high in nutrient. And that nutrient will grow nuisance weeds. In the estuary areas, it would be like sea lettuce. And you've probably seen some of the stuff on TV in various places around the world where and I think it was in Japan, where they were trying to remove it by trucks and truckloads, and it just smothers and suffocates and causes incredible odors when too much of this nutrient enters the upper parts of the estuary. And I'm not sure if people are aware of the downstream consequences or the long-term risks that applying a lot of nutrient to land can pose. And I'm just wondering whether the people on the part of this process have looked at that as being a complication to applying waste to land.
I can talk.
And comment, please. Comment.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, Fred, I think thanks for that. I think we're due for another harbour care engagement. Anyway, maybe we can talk about it a bit further. But yes, that's correct. The nutrients to waterways wouldn't, that creates an adverse effect, and it would get, and the project would, I mean, we've got a rep with the project that the experts we've employed are looking into that. So that's the scenarios that we're doing would be to avoid any adverse effects going into waterways like that. That's the step backs, etc., that are needed. Again, the other part of it, to the lower estuary, you're talking about the stream recharge. Again, it's the problem. Where does the water go? And earlier on you said everyone would love to send it away to the moon. Can't do that. And again, with the MBR, it is a highly treated water. All the nutrients have been stripped out of it, but again, you get the dilution effect. What does that do for those things, and what is it for the retention time within the estuary that has to be modelled, etc., and shown and presented to everyone, so it's understood what it means. That at the moment it's going out on the tide, it's sort of gone away. But again, the challenges with that, and the frustration and the history behind that, we have to think about ways to meet that, and that a stream recharge could be one. Again, we just have to present all the evidence. There's no preferred option at the moment. We're just sort of doing the research. So how about that if I talk to you offline, and it is time for another harbour care update?
Yeah. I'm just sort of keeping it real with all participants so they can actually understand, where harbour care is coming from. And bottom line is, harbour is our biggest care, And if it was possible to remove all that nutrient, or the majority of the nutrient, then a discharge to the upper part of any estuary may be feasible. And that's the sort of thing that we need to understand, that if you can actually strip nitrogen out of water, or nutrient out of water, well then, that my concern would be gone. But I'll keep quiet from now on if I can, please.
No, that's progress, Fred. Keep talking. That's progress, man.
Promises. In fact, Edward also made the comment earlier that, in fact, Fonterra won't take any milk from dairy pasture that's been irrigated with wastewater or treated wastewater at this stage. So again, it's another thing to think about for that to discharge option. And Stephen, I must admit, I didn't realise that you had another work stream to get Rocket Lab to relocate from the Mahia Peninsula to Raglan.
Yeah, that guy, that rich fella, he's going to help us.
Martin, is it Martin? Oh, anyway, it doesn't
matter.
That
guy, Tesla fella.
That fella.
Yeah.
One other comment I just wanted to pick up on. Phil, did you want to talk to, you mentioned there, in terms of the use of contoured land, I think, whether there was other ways of using swales and other, I guess, sort of fairly passive measures to slow down the flow of the wastewater, and therefore to use more contoured land. Was that at the heart of your question? Sorry,
that was the intent of that. Just really, marginal land, and maybe some engineering could make marginal land more useful. I guess in relation to Fred's point as well, does it make a difference, Fred, if we're moving further away from entry point into the harbour, and possibly a longer journey for the water to be moving towards the harbour?
Through the chair, I'm not the expert in this either, but I do know that there's been long path flows under Taupo. Generally, the further up the catchment you get, the more problematic it will become, because that water all drains into the more upper parts of the estuary that has less water exchange. But underground flow paths, knowing that, just because you're in the upper part, some of those underground flow paths pop up in some pretty unusual places. It could pop up, under your basement, who knows, so that's all the sort of stuff that will have to be worked through. but again, if the pollutants have been removed from it, like from the liquid, I really don't see it being much of a problem. It's just getting it down to what sort of quality. Auckland's going to be drinking their own effluent, so obviously you can get it down to pretty good quality. Maybe we could even pipe it up there and they could reuse it.
Sell it to them.
Sell it, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free to a good home. We'll just start sending trucks down from Auckland now.
Yeah. So there's a couple of ones in there, like the Phil's question was just, is it like can we just have the retention? The retention allows greater irrigation, etc. And the principle is good. It's just the volumes and the time of the year when the volumes get created, like in the winter, the soil is already is really wet. It's really at its limit already. The volumes are huge. That's how we're storing it. It doesn't. That could have benefits during it could be something that could happen in the summer when it just sort of evaporates and it does hardly even hits the pipe. It's just that harsh sort of winter time that it would be difficult. You'd still have an overflow even with a snake river type thing weaving its way down. In terms of the I just saw Chris's thing pop up. It's saying, are we even considering MBR versus with a polishing, a cultural acceptable system, and then putting it out in the title using the day pond? The answer is that's something that we are working to. It's going to take it's just going to have it's just optioneering and knowledge building to get there. Can we do it? I'm not sure but in terms of what would we have for the outlet? We don't want another stub. That's what we do in the first set of testing. Another weighted one wouldn't work there. So we have to find the scenario that we'd have to find a decent place to actually have a diffuser, because we're not going to get a consent for another little stub. it's just too gnarly. So again, what else could be acceptable to the Raglan community? Another location that sort of may not be on the doorstep of hapu, which for 40 years have been frustrated, etc. And there's been step changes in the type of the quality of the treatment over time, but earlier on that was something that was really, really hard and a real rift between our key partners. We've got to try and fix that somehow. Maybe moving the outlet somewhere, maybe, and then finding a way for an earth cell to work, which could have pluses. It might be the vetiver. I'm not sure what it can do, but it may be we're talking about emerging organic compounds, which no one knows that is a concern for many little different councils. Having an effective biosolids removal can help that, but maybe the vetiver can take it out of the water as well. That's something that I've heard, and I need to investigate further. In terms of the soils there, going through soil, it would have to be sort of a manipulated soil, but the vetiver can dig down through the clay. Again, it would be trial work that would be needed, and working closely with hapu for a co-design solution and the community as well. So just bear with us. We're thinking about all these things, Chris, and keen to talk to you over a beer with it or whatever. No dramas.
I think normally red wine that Chris brings out around about now. So I'm just going to finish up. We're just coming up on 8 o'clock, but there is a good comment there from John, which I'll just put to you if you haven't seen it. Is the aim still for a November resource consent application? ?
Yep. So this is we have gone over this a little bit before. So the November was a aspirational time last year, pre-COVID, pre everything. And then it was, wouldn't it be nice? But then what do you rush? Do you rush landowner discussions and go, oh, what do you know? We run out of time. So we've got one lodged, which is a short-term consent. should we push on through a hearing and spend X thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on hearings, etc. Again, we have to lean closely on WRC and work with them so there's comfort that we're actually progressing toward a long-term solution. That's what everyone wants. So November, we're going to have to do something with the application. It can't just be held in limbo forever. My preference would be just to be able to present an application with a more fuller, with more confidence that we're actually heading towards a solution that the community hapu can want, and it's achievable, and we can go to the Water Governance Board and the council and say this is the type of application that could be that is a balanced application that is something that could be a long-term consent. Without that, it would be, what have you got? You get a short-term consent, another 3 years of Zooms. I don't know. A couple of us will probably drop off. You know. I don't know if I really answered it. I don't really know if I really answered that question.
Well, I'm going to go to Ian to possibly give some insight and then also close us for tonight. But I think some may drop off, Stephen, from the Zoom over a 3-year period, but it'll be people like you and I. The Raglan community doesn't go anywhere on this particular topic.
That's right.
Turning up. Ian, do you want to close us up for tonight?
Yeah, just like to thank Watercare for their continued hard work on this. We've gone through another lockdown, of course, don't forget, in level 3, which curtailed Watercare's work because they went into a more robust lockdown to protect everyone, to make sure we can keep the essential services going in waters. So given that, there's still been a lot of work done. A couple of things I found interesting was the emerging contaminants work, which seems to be interesting and tied with the interests of the community, but actually probably a bit of leading edge stuff. I was quite impressed with the footprint of the MBR and actually how very small it is. And it's important, I think, to note that the output from an MBR can be used in many different ways, and that's going to be that's the secret to success. But the highest quality treated effluent that we can get to will be through an MBR process at the moment. And then just like to remind you, before next month, you've got 2 elements of homework. That's the 1999 Bulletin and the Waitangi Tribunal summary to read. And questions will appear at the next monthly meeting. So, happy reading. Have a test on.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And a prize. $100, from you.
What?
Yeah.
No, very good, everyone. Thanks for your attendance, everyone. I appreciate it. It's all valuable time, and hopefully, I find this personally, the Zoom is really good because everyone's able to sit at home and still get the input and investment into the project that you want. So, yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for your time, and thank you, Steve and Watercare, for pushing things on. It's good to see. Keep it up.
Cool.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. We'll log off at that point, and we'll see you again in about a month's time.
Very good. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.